morning. Are we up and running? It's the weekend in Asakusa, Saturday morning. Another sunny day. Beautiful, another beautiful sunny day here in Asakusa. Okay, what do we got this morning? It's carving. I don't know, tomorrow is probably going to be sizing upstairs, probably. But today, it's carving. Just picking up where we left off. I don't have another specific job to do just yet. So we'll spend the time working on the Octopus block. I do have another carving job coming soon. We've got to carve the next design for the print party room. But at the moment, there's nothing on the desk except this one. Paper is out. Actually, it's not out, but there was no yellow dots on the freezer up there this morning, so I didn't have to take any paper out. And we have an interesting show and tell, as we talked about yesterday. We were expecting some packages to arrive. They did arrive just at the end of the stream yesterday, and we'll have a look at one of them today. It's an interesting, funny show and tell in two parts. Remind me about that when we get to 9 o'clock or so. We're still at peak party. We're totally sold out every day. Not even room for one more person to squeeze in. And today there's going to be 3 parties on. We opened up only 3 slots because we're short-staffed today. The parties, yesterday we had veterans, 3 veterans plus me, so we opened 5 slots. And today's only going to be 3 slots because it's just me and Kawai-san. And with just 2 of us, there's no way we can do 5 parties a day without getting exhausted. So we've only opened up 3 slots today. There's no early morning party. The first party will be at 10 o'clock after the stream closes. You got a delivery man there? What's he doing? No idea. You see what he's delivering? What's he got there? I can't see him from where I am. Oh, it's a piece of glass. Yeah, for the construction across the street. It's a window now. Look at that. You can see just above the truck that's parked there, the second floor of the building behind him. The second floor windows are blocked. That's where there was a small fire last year. And they're doing construction in there. And it's just after 8 o'clock. As we said before, 8 o'clock is when things all start. As Hokusai entered the building, it reminds me of yesterday. Funny episode yesterday. Quite busy. bizarre episode yesterday. During the middle of the parties yesterday, we had a bunch of parties, but as I said, we had full staff. So it wasn't all on me. We took turns doing it. I did the fourth party of the day, I think. Staff did the other ones. And when it's somebody else doing the parties, I usually do the introductions. I go in there, chat with the guests first for a minute, see what they're doing. Then I introduce our staff. They go for the party, and I come up and work in the shop. And yesterday, because we had heavy staff, I also took a few minutes out in the afternoon to go to the post office. I took a trip. There was some rush orders. Cameron got them down from upstairs. So I took them over to the post office. Nice peaceful walk. The sub post office is about a 10-minute walk from here, just peaceful. Beautiful sunny day. I go out there, I get to the post office, drop up the stuff, and I'm walking back home. And I'm walking along the main road here that goes to Akapabashi, the place where the cooking supplies are. The sub post office is over in that direction. I'm walking back along the road, get back to the shop here, and coming towards me on the sidewalk is a kind of a really unusual sight. It's spring here, so people have changed. They've no longer got heavy coats on, they've got lighter clothes on. And a young woman was walking towards me, and she had really taken the spring thing to heart. She had like tiny, mini hot pants on, some little top at the front, squeezing herself in, big sunglasses, just nothing you wouldn't expect to see walking along the street here in Tokyo in the middle of the afternoon. And she walks by, and I do the proper thing. I keep my eyes front, just look a little bit instead of looking up and down, whatever. Anyway, just a bizarre sight. So I walk past her, and she walks past me. Then I hear from behind me, there's this woman's voice. Says, "No, it couldn't be." She says in Japanese, "Moshikashitara," as in, "No way, it couldn't be." And I pause, so I turn to look at her, and there's this young woman, and she's sort of pointing at me, and she's Japanese. She points and tries to say something, and she says, "Hokusa, Katsushika Hokusa," pointing at me, you know. Okay, I get where this is going. She's seen some TV program. So I said, "Hokusai de wa nai desu ka, mokohanga ga desu ne. I am the printmaker." And she says, terebi, I saw you on TV. So she puts her hand out to shake hands, and whatever, you just follow the lead, shake hands, and she says, thank you, walks away and goes away. I keep walking, go back to the shop, and it's just sometimes so bizarre, you know, a creature that would never, ever look twice at someone like me, you know, which is whatever, 20-year-old, half naked, walking down the street, young woman, who would never blink twice at an old dude walking by, you know. And yet because she sees you on TV, just incredible world. So somebody just posted now, is Hokusai in the building? Yes, I'm here. I should have asked her to take a picture of me. Conversation. How deep am I carving? 3 or 4 millimeters? No, not even remotely close to 3 or 4 millimeters. The wood, the cherry wood we've got bonded here is 4 millimeters down to the plywood. I don't think I'm a millimeter down anywhere here. You might get a funny sense of the scale here. I don't think I'm a millimeter anywhere here. Maybe the deepest little points here and there where I go too far, I'm over a millimeter. There's no way. This stuff is so close together, you don't need to go deep. I am too deep. What you see here is too deep. The only time you need to we would never get 4 millimeters down, not in the widest part of any of these blocks. But again, it's a floating factor. How deep should you carve? It's the Abraham Lincoln joke. You know, how long should a man's legs be? And he says, long enough to reach the ground. I know, whatever. If you're getting blots, you got to go deeper, or get a thinner paper, or a more calendar paper, or whatever. It all depends on the kind of paper you're using, how much you're going to press it, what kind of pigments you're going to use. There's no single factor for any of these things. When we compare our cutting with the Meiji era cutting, the Meiji ones are generally shallower because they had much finer paper. Their paper had a flatter surface, a smoother surface, and it spread flatly across the block. Our paper has a much rougher surface, so it's necessary for us to press harder, and that pushes it down in a lot of places. So we have to go deeper. But nowhere would I be that deep. Near your store, there's this huge line that always forms for a store. Is that a dessert place or something? I don't know, it depends what time of day you're talking about. There's lots of restaurants and food places around here that line up, boom, every day near lunch. Where you're looking now, in front of that truck, about one car length down, there's the hot dog place, and that'll be lined up pretty much most of the day. To the right of us, there's a small coffee shop that lines up at noon, and then at the end of the block, there's a tendon, which lines up quite strongly at noon. So there's lineups everywhere, mostly food places. Then in the block, in the back side of our block, there's a Yoshikami, the Western restaurant, and they line up strongly around noon. How come there's a street? Somebody's asking me, how come there's a street cam? Just for fun, because we can. We have an extra camera here. There'll be no guest. Cameron won't be here this morning because it's a weekend. So instead of wasting the camera, wasting the bandwidth, we just put it outside for fun. No special reason. You're not going to see anything spectacular. There's no festival today. Just because we can. Starting a couple of months from now, there will be construction outside with cameras. The Street Association, the Merchants Association, over the past year, just before I joined them, made the decision to spend the money and arrange for some security camera installation along this street. And there's going to be, I think, maybe 4 or 5. I don't know the details of how it's going to be implemented. There will be 4 or 5 security cameras placed along the length of this street, starting sometime in the next few months. I think it's a bit of overkill, because this street is not specifically anyway a dangerous place. I know the reason they're starting that, I think, is because there was one incident about a year ago of shutter spray. There was some graffiti sprayed on the shutter just across the street from me. And the little old lady who runs the shop there, I guess, went kind of ballistic, and she demanded more security or whatever, I don't know. So the cameras are going in. But this street has a bit of safety, I don't know. We have a built-in safety net on this street to protect against certain levels of crime. Just where you're looking at that truck there, if you go to the next block, towards the Don Quixote, and then the white building, it's what they call a mansion here in Japan. It's a condominium in most parts of the world. Here they're called mansions. And in that condominium building, there are at least half a dozen gangster offices. This is a Yakuza Jimsho in there. So this is a concentration of gangster offices. And upstairs from the theater there is on the 2nd floor. And up on the 3rd floor is the gangster offices. So there's going to be a certain level of criminal whatever who will avoid having anything to do with buildings on this street, obviously. So in a sense, we're sort of defended by that. It also means there's a relatively high police presence here, because the police keep an eye on these guys too. So because of those factors, we have a sort of a safety net here on this street. So I think the impetus for the cameras is just that lady who had the graffiti episode, and I think they've gone overboard, but whatever. Someone's asking, have I myself had any run-ins with the gangsters here? No, absolutely not. Zero. We all see them there, but I'm not on their radar at all. Absolutely not. As I understand it, anybody in the business, what they call the mizu shobai, the water trade, which means anything to do with bars, booze, dancers, strip clubs, whatever, nightlife, hostess clubs, people in those lines of business, as I understand it, have to deal with the gangsters, the protection rackets, etc., etc. But I have nothing, I've never ever seen them, not that I know of. They've never shaken me down, never talked to me, never done anything. I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that I'm not, as I said, I'm not in the nightlife business or a tourist shop. It's not their field of endeavor. And I think it might also be the fact that I'm a foreigner, and they're not sure how I would react. If I were Japanese, they could approach me being fairly confident about how I would react, whether I would fold and pay the money or something like that. But because I'm a foreigner, I'm an unknown quantity, and they don't know what would happen. I would fold and happily pay the money, or I would start to yell and scream and do stuff, whatever. So there's that little unknown factor. I'm not some superhero or something, but I'm unknown to them. So I think that's part of the reason why they would leave me alone, because this is gangster central around here. There's nothing that goes on around here that they're not in on and aware of. But no, they have never, ever, ever so much as talked to me. So, which suits me fine. They take care of their world, and I'll take care of my world. And also, realistically, they're shaking down bars and stuff for money. This is a tourist shops on woodblock prints, I mean, they probably looked at us and done their financial calculations and said, yeah, right, like there's a whole lot of money there, not. So I don't know what factors are involved here. There's many things that have surprised me about the way the business is done here, A lot of things I was quite surprised about when I found out how they work. Another one that I was really curious about was the travel agent business and the what do you call it? The introduction business. I'll explain this. Travel agencies, they're guiding people around town. A bunch of the local travel agencies and stuff, when they're taking people around for walks, they will bring their people in here. It'll be like a woman with a flag, and 6 or 7 people will be following her down the street. And she's the one who is their tour guide for the Asakusa area. And some of these people are independent tour guides, and some work for companies and whatever. This is not for a print party. It's just people walking down the street. And there was one in here yesterday, a very nice lady. She had her little flag, and she had 5 or 6 Australians, I guess, with her. And she just comes in and says, hi, how you doing? And I recognize her. I say, hello, hello. She brings her crowd in, and she gives them a tiny little talk. This is a place run by, she used to think I was American. She'd say, there's this place run by an American, and they're making beautiful woodblock prints, and please browse for a while if you like. And she lets them browse for 5 or 10 minutes, and then she grabs her flag and says, okay, let's go somewhere else. And before I knew anything about this business, or if I were one of her, if I was one of the tourists being led around, I would totally assume that this was part of the setup. But if they bought something here, later on, some of the money goes back around to the woman who brought them in here. But it turns out that here in Japan, that's not the way this happens. I've been here at Ground Central in the tourist business now for 5 years. I've seen tour groups, there's buses, there's you name it, there's all going in. And never ever have we paid anything. back to the tour people who bring people in here, and never have we been asked for such payment. It's just not the way things are done here. And before I got into this business, I was surprised. I would have assumed that we may have to set aside X percentage to pay a fee, to these companies that do this. But it doesn't exist here. It may exist, whatever, the large buses taking a pile of Chinese tourists to Don Quixote or something. Maybe they're getting something back. I have no idea. I don't know. But at the casual day-by-day walking around town level, there's nothing. It doesn't exist. She brings people in. We say hello. Sometimes they're shopping. Sometimes there isn't. She walks out. She doesn't come back later looking for a percentage. It just doesn't happen like that. Yeah, to flag people with 30, they don't bring 30 in here, obviously it's common sense, that they know what they can do and what they can't do. The people that end up coming here are just 4, 5, or 6, so whatever. And we're not on any official itinerary of any one of those companies, the Octopus tours and stuff like that. But there's no kickbacks. We've never, in all the years I've been doing this now, it's nearly 5 years downtown here in Saxa, we have never either paid nor been asked for any kind of kickback. There was one bizarre example about this. One of the companies that runs the rickshaw, what are they called? Rickshaws. One of the companies that does that. We see the boys go back and forth, and we're on greeting terms with them. Some of them will stop in front of our shop and gesture, here's the famous woodblock shop and stuff like that. Now one day, one of those guys came in. I knew him as a driver, but he came in not as a driver. He just came in. He had his uniform, his hat, and his briefs and all that kind of stuff. And he came in with a selfie stick and a camera and a microphone set up on his head. And he gestured to me to come outside. I went outside. He says, I'm live. We're streaming. Can I come in? And I said, yeah, sure, whatever. So the guy comes in with the phone and he's streaming. And it turns out that this company, they're called Ebisu Ya. It's one of the rickshaw cart companies. They're planning a new kind of business, virtual tourism, and they're already starting to experiment with it. And what he had at the other end of his phone, he was live streaming to a family somewhere in America. I think they were in Georgia or something. I don't remember the exact deal. So the guy comes in and he catches me, here, this is David. David, please introduce yourself. I introduce myself. He holds up the phone. I can see this family from Georgia sitting on their couch, and they're all like, hi, on this little screen. And okay, whatever. I don't know what's going on, but whatever, I'll just follow the deal here. And then he says, can we look around? And I said, yeah, whatever. So he takes the camera, and I can hear him explaining what's going on. He takes the camera, runs along the rows of prints and stuff like that. And he says, can we shoot some of these? Yeah, whatever. So he picks some up and shows them to the camera, and this goes on for 5, 10, 15 minutes. Then it turns out he pulls 1 or 2 or 3 of these things, takes them to the cash register, and asks the girls, these people in America would like to buy these prints. And she looks at me and says, now what do I do? So I come closer, so I ask him, what's your plan? He says, well, I'll just buy these right now, and we'll send them to the people over there in Georgia. Is that okay? And I'm like, well, yeah, of course, whatever, let's do this. So he gets his wallet out, we run the transaction, he gets his receipt. The people from Georgia are really happy, they've just bought 3 prints, and out they go. He came back later in the day to explain to me what was happening, that they were testing this idea about virtual tourism and virtual shopping. And they're going to put this on their website. People all over the world, you can hire a guide who will walk around the Saxa at your beck and call, turn left, turn right. You'll go into shops, he'll do the buying for you while you sit on your couch back somewhere in wherever you are. And this was one of the first tests of the concept. And yeah, okay. I don't know if this is going to become a really major thing. We cooperated with it, we're willing to cooperate with it, but I wonder if it's going to take off. And so far, it's only been that one incident, but can you imagine that? We got a shop here, and day after day after day, people come in waving a camera, chatting with headphones, and they are shopping for somebody in Atlanta or England or whatever. Will that change our business, disrupt our business, help our business? I don't know. But I guess the point I was trying to make, when he did come back, I was thinking, aha, here he is. I wonder if they're going to, say, can we do a business deal together? We'll bring people in if we get 10% or something. And he's still the same story. He didn't ask for anything. Their point of view was that they sell this service to the consumers. The consumers have hired them, the person at the other end of the phone, have hired them to do this, and that's all they want. They didn't look for any other percentage. Now, whether if it becomes a big, big, big deal, they would do that or not, or whether they'll do a sort of a Lonely Planet approach, where you can't pay Lonely Planet for anything. Of course not. Their whole point is that it's 100% pure, and when they're recommending something, it's because they think it's good. And perhaps that's the way this company is going to do that. And if they were taking kickbacks, then it all goes around and around. You don't trust the people you're hiring because they're just going to take you to places where they get more money. Anyway, it was an interesting experience. It hasn't been repeated yet. This would have been a couple of months back. I haven't seen it happen again. So I don't know if they're actually going to go ahead with this business model or whatever. You can Google it. The company's called Ebisuya, EBISU-YA. Google it. See if they've got this up and running. So it's not on their website yet. He did say it was a trial. They were just playing with the idea, seeing how it would go. I imagine actually that business, the rickshaw cart business, they're struggling with one of the same things that we are. The ability to get staff who can speak English. You need staff who can communicate with people freely and easily and competent at the particular job, driving a rickshaw cart or in our case making a print party or something. Finding competent staff is really, really, really tough. And the rickshaw cart guys too have another serious difficulty in that because it's tourism, it's strongly seasonal. So you can't hire the people as full-time employees. They're going to be full-time in April and May and then in September, October, November. But during February, you got no work for them. So you can't hire them full-time, you got to hire them part-time. That's just the seasonal business, that's the way it is. And you need hundreds of people at certain times of year, and you need very few people at another time of year. the glass guy finished? I wasn't watching. What did he do? He delivered a whole bunch of sheets of glass. Maybe it's for the front windows. You can see the white, covering on the second floor over there. They ripped out all the old front walls. So maybe these windows are for the new front. That doesn't make any sense because you wouldn't just put glass up. You would bring in ready-made windows in this front. Anyway, we'll see. It's a bit unusual for a renovation to involve raw panes of glass. It begins the construction. So it's going to be a noisy day. They're ripping out concrete something. That's another one done. Let's peel the paper back for the next roll. This is the peel. It's going to take months. we don't want to peel the whole thing off. We talked about this before. If we peel the whole thing off, as I'm carving this, my fingers rub against it, and there's a good chance of spoiling it, of maybe perhaps pulling it off. So we just peel it back, just the parts that we can see, parts that we can work on one at a time. This is protected because my hand is rubbing against this all day long. How are we for time? Let's do a bit more before we do show and tell. Show and tell maybe starts around 9 o'clock, not quite sure. John Becker gives me 0.5. That's fine. This gets 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. At the end of the day, it adds up to 100. Actually, in preparation for today's show and tell, I'll pop a link in here, just a sec. In preparation for today's show and tell, there's a link to something we'll be talking about when I show you the print. That's an image of a print that's in the Tokyo National Museum. And the website there, ukiyo.org, the website is the place set up by John Resick, the jQuery programmer, JavaScript programmer. He set it up, I guess, as a kind of hobby, side business, I don't know, whatever. And the website has images of great many ukiyo prints from all over the world, scooped from all kinds of websites, private websites, museum websites, you name it. And you can see on the page that I linked there, what his software has done is it combines. You can see at the top of the page I just linked the copy of the print that's in the Tokyo National Museum. But down on the bottom, the rest of the page, it's found similar images in other places all over the world, other museums or private collections or whatever. So it's a great place to be able to compare different versions of old prints that were printed at different time, different batches, different storage, whatever. I'm going to, when I do the show and tell in a few minutes, we're going to focus on a couple of ones. We're going to look at the TNM copy, Tokyo National Museum. And we're going to compare it with a copy in the Harvard. It's the Harvard Library, I think. I forget what it's called. So on that page there's a copy marked Harvard, and a copy marked TNM. And then I've got a copy that we bought yesterday in our show and tell. And we'll have a look at something really, really, really interesting. And there's going to be a David's Choice video about this at some point. There has to be. Oh, excuse me. Breakfast. Yeah, so Hawkeye's perspective. Now, the guy was terrible at perspective. That's another story. So, yeah, bizarre perspective. Well, that's not what we want to chat about today. It's something else. And the things I'm going to mention today in the show and tell, it's not about Hawkeye's design inability. It's about the construction of the print. Can't keep up with you here. Okay, I think we're ready. We've cleared away now around the outside of this next line. Then we'll go through and carve delicately, but let's do the show and tell. What is it, 9 o'clock? Let's do a bit of show and tell. But actually I have a favor to ask. Yoisho! This is heavy. This is going to fill up the whole desk here. I'll have to sort out what to do with this. I have a favor to ask. When I was preparing for the stream today, I was rushing around. I didn't have a chance to actually go to the bathroom. Excuse me a minute. Let me just take a short visit to the smallest room in the house. I'll be back in a minute to look at what's inside here. Excuse me a minute. Okay, now what have we got here? Okay. We mentioned this yesterday. We scored a few things. Is a combination of things, actually. A bunch of boxes arrived yesterday. Stuff we got from the... do I know this guy, Stephen Winiecki? Yes, but don't interrupt me. We'll talk later. Remind me at the end of the stream. We talked about yesterday a bunch of stuff we got from auctions. Some of it from open Yahoo auctions and some of it through the dealer auctions. And this is one of the things that came yesterday through through the open Yahoo auctions we got on the website. And some people bid against me. I had to pay a little bit higher than I thought, than I wanted to. This isn't something we could sell in the shop because I had to pay, we talked about this yesterday, I had to pay closer to a retail price rather than a wholesale price. When I get something, if I buy it at a wholesale price, we can sell it for what it's worth. But if I have to pay what it's worth, we can't sell it for the same price. Anyway, it doesn't matter. This is what money's about, prints. This is Katsuka Hokusai. Mei Sakushu Janakutai Meihinshu. Number one, it's from Adachi Company. And after we look inside, this is from about the 1970s, 71 or 72 or 73. And inside is 2 sets of prints. I'll try and get rid of the folder here. This is not the best desk to do this at. There's the outer folder getting out of our way. And inside are two adachi sets. One set is the one, again, we mentioned this yesterday, Chie no Umi, which is a kind of a mixed set. It's not a reproduction of a Hokusai book, nor is it a reproduction of an actually organized set of prints. It's a set of prints that seems to form a set. I think there's 10 or 12 of them known, but there's also some tracings known and some other stuff. And nobody's really clear actually how many prints are in the set. And it's generally stuff to do with, as they say here, sea and waterside and rivers and stuff like that. Anyway, we're going to put this aside. It's enough for one day. We'll look at that some other time. The one I want to look at today is this, which is a very, very, very famous set, Shokoku Taki Meguri, a visit to 8 waterfalls in, what do they call them? Provinces, I guess, I don't know, areas around Japan. And this is adachi. And I said, this is adachi, as far as I can go by the various packaging and the stuff, it's about 1970s. And this is typical of adachi stuff too. Look at this. Foxing, 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 everywhere. The whole inside of this thing is foxed to the finish. And sometimes we find the prints as well. And when I get upstairs later this afternoon or tomorrow, the day after, job number 1 for me is to get these prints out of these folders. Because the adachi packaging was god-awful. They didn't know or didn't care. Look at the foxing everywhere. If we left the prints in here, the washi itself is no problem, but the packaging, look at it, look at it. They made it look so nice, but just didn't take that extra step to buy nice, expensive washi paper to pack them in. There's a Japanese and English language explanation of this thing. And then the prints. And on these adachi prints from this era, most of them come with this kind of a sheet inside. And some of them have the date. It'll say at the bottom 1971 or something like that. This one doesn't, but going by the staff names, we know, we can figure out when this was going by the names here. This is Adachi Toyohisa. He's the guy who started Adachi, and at this time in the 70s, he was still running it. The guy he adopted, Isamu-san, was not yet running the company, the guy who's running it now. And we have those top printers, Murata-san, super top printer, also Baron Maker, Hamano-san, Kojima-san, Nakata-san. I can't remember his name. It's not a name that really known to me. Saka, I don't remember how to pronounce that name. These top 4 guys, I never met Murata-san. I met Nakata-san. He was still there until just this last spring. He finally retired last spring. So he would have been near the bottom of this list at this time in the 70s. And sometimes when we get a package of these prints, we see the same group and one more name at the bottom, Kubota Kenichi. And he's the guy who's doing a lot of printing for us for the Ukiyo Heroes. So he hadn't yet been with them long enough to get his name on the list, or he hadn't even yet joined. So this means this is somewhere around 1971. And you know the prints, it's a set of famous 8 waterfalls. And these are, of course, reproductions, 20th century reproductions, and they are quite nicely done. These are not masterwork reproductions, but they are nicely done. And in comparison with almost all the other stuff that's published post-war, these are okay. The carving is clean and clear. The famous Hokusai, every dot, every dot, every dot is alive. I should push off the street scene for the minute. Maybe we don't need that. Just let me get that out of the way for a sec here. I can get rid of that for a second. And here we go. It doesn't have a white border frame. It's in a package. It's like this here. The print, they're lightly glued in. I'm going to take one here. Oops, it came out. So the prints are loose, and I myself, I will be taking them out of this packaging. We're going to keep the packaging for sort of historical reasons, but we keep it separately. Take the prints out and put them in a much safer place, safer environment. And they're good. They're good. They got the famous Adachi "Do not copy these things" on the back. They always stamp their name on the back of all of their prints. And it's reasonable quality washi, and it's nicely carved and nicely printed. No gomazuri. Anyway, there's one particular one in this set that I want to look at and focus on and talk about. Knowing my luck, it's probably going to be right at the bottom or something. Let's see. And I don't remember the names of all of these. The one I want to look at is the one it's known as the Amida waterfall. Oh, this is famous too, the guys with the horses, you know. Hokusai was never content just to show the landscape. He always wanted to put people doing interesting stuff in there. This one too, you know, it's, I don't remember the name of the waterfall, I'm sorry, but it's a famous place where people would go to do religious ablutions and stuff. And the guys have got some kind of, they've paid money to the shrine people to get their name or something written on, and they take it in, they wash it under the waterfall and go. But again, Hokusai, it's not enough just to show that. He's got to show some guy rubbing underneath his arm and getting dried and wringing out his cloth. He's always just showing normal people doing normal stuff. I guess it's kind of the attraction for us these days. Where's the one I want? Beautiful gradations. These guys have done a nice job. Very nice job. Look at this. Clean sky, clean gradations. You see other reproductions of these, and there's Ngoma, there's sesame seed printing everywhere. It's going to be at the bottom. That's it. The one I want is going to be right at the bottom, just as well. This set is a keeper. Very, very nice set. Here we go. Okay. Great job, buddy. Okay, this is in Kiso somewhere. It's one of the areas that was on the Kiso Kaido prints. And the really, really funny thing when you first see this print, of course, is the bizarre perspective. There's a waterfall in Canada, somewhere in northern BC, which is done this. It's cut a circular lip before it does its plummeting. And Hokusai, well, we shouldn't talk about this too much because we're talking about other things, but the perspective, he's looking down on the water and sideways through the water. It just doesn't work. But anyway, we see different views of the same scene all at the same time. What I want to talk about is this. This is the Adachi reproduction. It's quite nicely made. And I've been storing for a while. I've got another reproduction made by another company here in Tokyo. And when you see this, there's something, it's just so much fun. Here's a reproduction which we were going to put in our print flea market, but I took out because it's more fun to keep it. This is a reproduction made by the Craftsman, excuse me, the Craftsmen's Association here in Tokyo, and it would be about the same era, 1970s or 1980s. And the Craftsmen's Association here, it's carvers and printers, and it's not a business organization, they don't do publishing. But every now and then when there's not enough work from regular publishers, the Craftsmen's Association gathers together, figures out how can we make something, and they sort of semi-publish. And they did their own version of the Hokusai 8 waterfalls. And what they did, they went to the Tokyo National Museum, which has got originals here, and they must have made some kind of arrangement with the Tokyo National Museum. Can we use your pieces as copies to reproduce and make our reproductions? I know nothing about this. This happened before I was in Japan at all. But I can tell that's what's happened because here's the copy from the Craftsmen's Association. Now, I'm going to pop it up here. Let me pop up. I prepared some images here. Okay, now this is a copy of the print from, I don't know, Harvard Museum or something. This is a very faded copy of the original one. And what I want you to look at is, let's take away the Craftsmen's Association version. Let's look at the Adachi version. What I want you to look at over the next few minutes is this area to the left side of the waterfall. There's a bunch of different blocks have been carved here. There's a block for the deep blue background. There's blocks for the water as it falls. There's blocks for the stuff all around it. This zone here, these are billowing clouds of spray. And you can see, perhaps, if I zoom in for a minute, I'll need to zoom out again, but if I zoom in for a minute here, you can see it's supposed to represent billowing clouds of white spray around the waterfall. There's even, it's really faint, you can see the almost invisible thing here. And there's a gradation, a blue gradation coming on the side of it. Got that? You can see it in the copy that I've got on the left-hand side there as well. This is very, very faded, but you see the same thing. In that area, there is misty gradation coming away from the waterfall. Now let's take a look at this copy. This is the Craftsman's Association copy. And what do we see in that corner? We see a curved line. Let me try and put the two of these side by side. I'll take away that one for a second, just a moment. Here's the Adachi copy with a misty gradation going off to the left. And here's the Craftsman's Association copy. Some kind of blue curve here. What's going on? What's going on? Now, let me bring up the other copy and let me find it. This is the one in the Tokyo National Museum. And do you see what's happening? Look at this area. The Tokyo National Museum copy has a curve here and blue and no delicate gradation. Up at the top also here, look at this. It's got a curve. This Craftsman's Association have clearly used the TNM copy as their base copy. And by doing so, they have totally, absolutely screwed up. Let me pop this away for a minute and go back to the other copy. To make a gradation in an area like this, to the Adachi copy, to make this blue gradation, you need a block to print it on. Now, if you know the gradation is going to come this far, there's a couple of things to do. You could, if you want, just carve the block big enough to cover the area where the pigment is going to go. You don't need to carve the block out here because it's wasted. But if you do that, then you get a line at the end of the wood. If you're being really cheap, you've just cut your block this far, you tell the printers put gradation just at the beginning. They can put the gradation at the beginning, but there's a risk of having the block edge show up. So a normal set of color blocks for this print, to print this blue gradation, you would cut a block big enough to cover that, and it would go all the way to the edge of the print. The printer would be instructed, just put pigment at that side of it. Don't put blue pigment all the way to the end of it. But the original carvers and printers, way back in the old days, didn't do that. The original carver, back in the old days, Kawai-san, cut the block for this gradation. He cut it right there. But the publisher told the printers, I don't want you to print blue all the way to the edge of that. The purpose of this block is just a little light gradation at the edge there. We've just cut it here because whatever, because we've just cut it here. And if we bring it back up, here's another copy. I think this is from the Harvard Museum. You can see the same thing. They have just done a gradation at the edge of the waterfall, and they haven't gone very far. But somewhere along the line, the original set of blocks went to cheaper printers and cheaper printers and cheaper printers, and some printer, at some point, he printed this copy, the one we see in the Tokyo National Museum. He didn't get it. He thought this was to be printed just in flat blue, and as a result, you get this grotesque line. And it's the same thing up here, with a line, again, against the yellow. And that's the copy, the Tokyo National Museum copy, which our Craftsman's Association copied. There's one of two things has happened. Either the agreement with the museum said you must copy our print line by line by line, or simply because there was no publisher working here, because there was nobody with any sense of what was going on, nobody could understand what had happened, they just went ahead and reproduced the mistake. And it's in three places. It's down at the bottom. There should have been a light gradation coming up here. The block was carved in this line, and the Tokyo National Museum copy was stupidly printed right to the line, and the Craftsman's Association have stupidly printed the same reproduction. Adachi's craftsmen, they had a better idea. They knew what was going on. Toyohisa-san was smart enough to understand what was happening here, and his copy has a delicate gradation here, a delicate gradation here, and one at the bottom you can barely see, and there was no edge line, because he understood what he was seeing. Well, the museum people, no, they don't know anything about this. This is the thing about the museum people. They understand that they research like Hokusai diaries and stuff, and they research what the X-ray paper and what the pigments are. They don't know anything about how these were made. I'm not angry at them. It's outside of their sphere of knowledge. They just don't have any idea. They would see that curve. It's on the screen there in front of you right now. They would see that curve and just think, whatever, that's an old print, so it must be good. The older it is, the better it is, blah, 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 blah. They just don't know because they've never sat down and chopped wood and carved wood. So in a perfect world, the museum researchers and people doing all the research in the background would have some sort of contact with people who, you know, actually make the damn things, and you'd have a much better sense of what was going on here, why these things were happening. Does it matter? I don't know. I mean, if I had just showed you this print, if all you knew was the one from the Tokyo National Museum, you'd think that curve and this curve and that funny line, you'd just think they were part of the design, because these things are all so infinitely variable anyway. This is one of the pleasures of my job these days. When we're buying so many of these old prints in and out, in and out, in and out, I get a chance to compare different versions. And this is what our collection is being made up of. Over the years, in our collection here at Mokahankan, we are selecting a bunch of prints that show how well it can be done and how badly it can be done. And we're going to tell these stories. It's much, much more useful to show the two things side by side. Anyway, Adachi could do it. In the old days, they could do it when Toyohisa-san was still running the place. This guy was smart, he was sharp, he had a vision for what he wanted to do, and they made some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful prints. We talked about this yesterday. In Adachi's prime, they were staggeringly high quality. These days it's different. Okay, there we go. These prints go into our collection. They will be, first step, take them out of these awful protective folders, put them in where they'll be saved and protected, and bit by bit, one by one, try and get them preserved and talk about these stories, and if we can, eventually scan this whole damn collection, get it online. No idea when, where, how that's going to happen. Anyway, that's today's show and tell. Oh, Mori-san, hello, hello. Is it that time already? 9:21, it is. We're getting to the time here. Well, that's another awful copy, so I tried to find a few awful copies. Look at it, the left-hand gradation. No, I'm talking to the stream, sorry. It's okay, sorry, excuse me. Yeah. You're talking about which is better, which is worse, which is better. There are so many variations. If you go to the, I put a link to the page, the ukiyo-e.org page. You can look up any ukiyo-e print, and John Ressig's software has found dozens and dozens of versions, and it's really instructive. If you look at some of the Shinhanga prints, it gives you a feeling for how much huge variation is available in any given one set of blocks. The artist designed these things, sent it to the printers, how much collaboration there was then between the printers and then the designer. Looks like perhaps, probably, almost certainly had nothing to do with it after the color separations was done and the design was out there. And there's so much infinite variation capable, possible. And my biggest challenge as a publisher now is when we reprint our stuff. I'll be sending more blocks to Kubota-san this afternoon. My job is to make sure he gets a good sample, he gets a good nihon, and we talk to him about what we want here and there. And that's my job as the publisher, to try and keep these variations to a minimum, to choose the version we want, and to make sure that that's what goes out into the world. And almost certainly what's going to happen is after I'm gone, and people don't know these stories, our blocks go to a publisher, to the next printer, and people don't catch these things, and the same thing will happen to Mokahankan that happened to the Adachi. The first guy knew what he was doing and controlled it, but the next guy, and the next guy, and the next guy, of course it just gets lost. Anyway, I haven't been able to read what you guys have been commenting at the same time that I've been talking, so I'm sorry. I haven't been able to do that. I'll try and read it later when I'm getting my lunch. Right now, it's time for me to get out of here and get started with the shop, because I am the #1 party host today for the entire day. Okay, I gotta get out of here. On tomorrow's stream, I'm warning right now, Sunday, we normally do a stream here carving with the camera outside, but that's not what's gonna be happening tomorrow, because tomorrow almost certainly will be a sizing stream. The printers are ganging up on me. They're running out of paper, and I will need to do some sizing over the weekend. I might do some tonight, or it might be tomorrow. So tomorrow will probably be a sizing stream, which means no outside camera. Here we are, our day is beginning. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm out of here. See you tomorrow and or Monday and whenever. Bye-bye. Okay, time to get going.